Joining me now, David Bahnsen, managing partner at the Bahnsen Group. Now, David, two things. One is what you make of the 9-day sell-off in the Dow, because you are a big market guy here. And two, the Mundelean hypothesis, I thought, was always a very sensible thing.
Every single word of your opening speech was utterly brilliant, except for the part about passive index investing.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
The entirety of the issue about inflation has to be approached from a supply-side standpoint. I have been screaming this for 3 years.
Yeah.
Inflation is when there is not enough goods and services relative to money supply. You can solve that, as was done in the 80s, with more production of goods and services. You do that with better incentives. You do that with deregulation, lower marginal rates, and just stopping punishment of business and so forth. Look, I don't think the Fed's rate policy has anything to do with inflation. They know they froze housing. They froze housing by going too low for too long, then they spiked it up so high, and now no sellers want to sell. They have to lower rates to unthaw housing. That's what's really going on. I don't expect them to say it.
Deregulation would help housing, too.
It would, but that's really more on a state level. I mean, it's very hard, obviously, for a central bank, but even White House to do a lot on that deregulation. There's so many blue state problems.
But if I said buy and hold long-term dividend indexing, how would that measure?
Well, the problem with indexing dividends is it's forward-looking by definition, so you need active managers like us to tell you who's about to cut their dividend. We have to avoid dividend cuts, my friend.
I got it. David Bahnsen, better to cut taxes first before tariffs?
Yes, and not only for the economics, but the political victory. He did it in 17. He got that tax bill done, and it gave him a lot more leverage into 18 when he started going into trade, immigration, other issues. Right. He will get victories with these other domestic policy issues if he starts with taxes. It's lower-hanging fruit. Only thing I want to say quickly on the tariff issue, reciprocity is a better message than protectionism.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, buyers and sellers can still decide if it's a bad deal. And if they think India's barriers to trade are too expensive, they don't have to trade with India. And that is the problem to me. I get it. Politically, he's tapped into something, but I still can't help myself but believing economically, I don't really want the White House deciding what's a fair trade deal either. I really want buyers and sellers doing so. But it is...
Why not level the playing? Why not... What he's saying is, and we have to go, but this is too much fun. What Mr. Trump is saying, and what Howard Lutnick is saying is, we have a very busted, unfair trading system. So we, the United States, because we have the biggest market, they all want to sell into our market, we should do something to protect ourselves, quote unquote. And reciprocity is a great way to do it. If you cut, we'll cut. Or if you don't cut, we're going to have to take some action. I mean, it is a kind of America first.
I can do it in 5 seconds, Larry. What Steve said is very important. If you really want better terms for American manufacturers, don't worry what India's charging them. Worry what you're charging them. Our tax and regulation ecosystem is too expensive, and the fact that we refuse to commit to King Dollar. So we continue to let the exchange rate be a force of manipulation in this. We don't have to worry about what they charge if we would stop over-regulating our domestic manufacturers.
Jackie,
I like that.
There's a lot of There's a lot of sensible things going on here. Yeah. It'll all play out. That's all I'll say. David Bahnsen, when does this Dow correction end?
Look, you probably don't get a 10th down day, but who knows? It's just what's interesting is it's 9 days in a row. It's a lot. It hasn't gone down that much. It's a couple percent. It's still way up from
3.5%.
3.5% is child's play.
You can see why it got my attention.
It did, and the NASDAQ was at an all-time high.
1978 was never my favorite year. Anyway.
Well, there was a lot of bad things in 1978.
But they did reduce the capital gains tax.
Oh, God, that is true.
Kemp Roth.
You are right about that. Kemp Roth was later. Carter, yeah, you're right. It wasn't his idea. It was Bill Steiger. Thank you,
Yes,
Steve
he was.
Yep. Thank you, David Bahnsen.